Look, everybody, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Great turnout tonight. It's awesome. If you don't mind, I'm going to say a quick prayer before I get started. I always like to do that because I need God to give me the words. Sorry, it's my story. He's the one that led the whole thing. Dear Lord, help me have a positive impact today. I'm telling my testimony. And please have it make a good impact. Help me be thorough, but not too thorough. We got a time limit. Thank you, Lord. All right.
Amen.
My name is Troy. I suffer from combat PTSD from Desert Storm, along with alcohol, drugs, anger, depression. I could probably come up with a longer list if you want. Okay? You know how things are when life hits you. Okay? The story starts in 1970 when I was born, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Okay, maybe not that long ago, but no, I grew up in Antioch, Illinois, little town right between Chicago and Milwaukee, bunch of lakes around, population of 4,400, you know, nice little town, bunch of lakes, not too bad, not too bad. Mom and Dad took me to church all the time, eventually went to Camp Mallorca, and dedicated my life to God and got baptized and all that good stuff, about 10 years old or so, something like that. Get into high school and start seeing some things, you know, like, boy, you know, the church thing, that's the only time we wear the really nice clothes, you know. Don't get those dirty, let me tell you. Oof, that's back then. Hey, I gotta take those off before you go run out and play. But more than that, you know, the anger and the dysfunction and everything in the family just kind of, you know, was ballooning out of control quite a bit, you know. And the hypocrisy and the hypocritical aspects of the church and stuff really stung me. I mean, I'll never forget in high school when my mother was volunteering in the church as a secretary, and I rounded the corner and got to hear the lady who runs the office cussing her up one side and down the other in the church office. I could not believe it. Absolutely could not believe it. I didn't set foot in the church again for several years after that, and it kind of changed the direction of my life a little bit, but one thing was always sure, and that's that I was going to go into the military. Family was broke, and the divorce was finalized a month or two before I left, so, you know, I mean, that's kind of how things broke out. I mean, nobody had any money. What am I going to do? I should hang around the house, get a job? Which house? No, that was never going to be in the works. So, you know, everything was all about, I knew I was going to the military for years before I did. You know, so I just made sure that happened. When I did that, I wanted to see how tough I was, like most dumb kids. So I signed up to be a paratrooper. I signed up to do that, and of course that put me right in the good combat units, because you know that's where you are when you can jump on airplanes, first in, last out kind of deal. And I went in for the college money. Hey, you know what? I wanted to go to college. That's what I wanted to do. So I get in there. Luckily, I came in really good shape. Missed Fat Farm by like 3 pounds. That was great. Thought I was a tough football player. Learned real quick I wasn't. But no, I ended up being platoon honor graduate, 100% CTT. I got a promotion, everything else like that. I got out of basic, went to the advanced program for chemical school, which was my MOS, and did really good in the military. I excelled, worked out good. Then August 2nd happened, and Iraq invaded Kuwait, and by the 9th, I was a little bit warm. When I stepped off the plane, it was 127 degrees in full gear. I don't know if you guys can actually fathom 127 degrees. That's, it's a dry heat, but don't worry about it, it's a dry heat. Okay, sure, it's a dry heat, as people are passing out. Anyway, luckily I hold a lot of water, so I was a little better than some. But no, when you're that young, you can do anything. Come on, you think you're 7 foot tall and bulletproof, right? So, you know, I mean, it's suddenly, when you're in a combat situation, which took a little bit because there was that whole long Desert Shield before Desert Storm, you know, you almost get a little bit comfortable out there, actually, and you learn that downtime for soldiers is not really a good thing. But, you know, the long and short of the whole military stuff is, you know, the war ended up happening. We were in the front lines, did a lot of stuff, but this talk is not about combat veterans. But I can tell you that this program of Celebrate Recovery, AA, all that stuff, works very well for veterans who have PTSD issues. It's been the best help for me, even though I went to a bunch of different military PTSD retreats and inpatient therapies and everything else like that over the years. Anyway, fast forward past the military career. I get out of the military. They asked me if I want to re-enlist, and I can't repeat what I said to the guy. Not in this building, anyway. So that wasn't going to happen after the war. I mean, I did my time, I was done. But I went to Northern Illinois University. Yes, let's do the college thing. All right, let's do that. Well, as a kid, you don't realize that you're kind of damaged goods by the time you get out of the war. I mean, 20-year-old kids seeing and doing what I did there. I mean, it was just kind of crazy. So you still think that there's nothing wrong. Well, there's nothing wrong. I'm fine. So, and alcohol was a big part of my military career, of course, and it's a chance we got, But, so I get to college and have a really hard time with algebra. All the math teachers were Haboob, Patel, whatever. I could barely understand what they were saying, and frankly, the accent sounded a whole lot like where I just came from, and I wasn't going to take that. So I stood in line to talk to the one math tutor named Mitchell, because there was one guy who spoke really good fluent English, and there were 47 people waiting to see him. So I ended up dropping out of college after a year. I specialized in alcohol use, got my bartending license, and worked at a big club there where I was driving my Camaro around as a superhero, like I just came out of the war, like a tough guy. That was great, just terrific. Joined a fraternity as a freshman. I don't recommend it. But so I majored in alcoholism in college. So that's an accomplishment. It's good. No, college didn't work for me. I didn't apply myself. I had too many other things going on in my head. So, anyways, shortly after that, I ended up hooking up with a girl from college. And, perfect girl for me. I'm working in an asbestos abatement company and stuff like that. She's coming over to visit me, hanging out and all that stuff like that. And she can't get pregnant. So naturally, 20 minutes later, she's pregnant. So, that's kind of how things worked out. A couple of kids later, get married, the house, and all other stuff like that. I found my way into a sales job doing car sales and stuff like that. And, God knows nobody drinks or does drugs in the car business. I mean, that just doesn't happen. A couple laughs anyway, that's good. But yeah, that was not the career to get into, let me tell you. For 26 years, all the family events on Saturdays, Saturday's the biggest day in the car business, so I couldn't attend any of them. And that kind of added fuel to the fire for everything else with alcohol and the whole thing. So naturally, I met my wife at a bar too, by the way. Imagine that. But that would ever happen, right? So anyway, things just weren't working out with that at all. We were fighting like cats and dogs, the whole thing. So eventually I got divorced, and I had a really good plan, move into Kenosha, and get everything situated, the whole thing. And like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a good plan until you get punched in the face. That's pretty much what happens. Okay, so and that's exactly what happened in my case. My case was I thought I had everything figured out. Well, surprise, Troy, you didn't have anything figured out. So as all the money goes away and you can't afford anything and you're struggling and the whole thing, and I never questioned my decision though. It's kind of funny. Never had God involved in it. That's kind of funny. It seems silly now. Didn't seem silly then. But as I go forward from there, I decided that I'm going to have to get a part-time job as a bouncer or a bartender. So I decided to go the bouncer route since I'm a pretty big guy. And along with that, I decided to come up with an idea for money since I was that broke. And I decided I was going to come up with a website called KenoshaNightlife.com. Okay, so I learned how to write in HTML. That's hypertext markup language. That's what websites were made of. And I did that, and I created this website. I sold it to the bars and the restaurants. So that means after I got off work at 9 o'clock at night, I had to go to all the bars, take pictures, do updates, find out what the events were. That's great. I'm in the bars 7 nights a week now, taking pictures like a celebrity, getting free drinks and the whole thing. So that didn't have any effects on me. I was great. A couple laughs. So obviously that definitely kind of changed the dynamic a little bit. Divorced, and now in the bars every single night. Okay, so that didn't have anything bad happen. Yeah, that kind of spiraled out of control relatively quickly. It really did. Once I got settled in to things and everything else like that a little bit, I met another woman, and you'll never guess where I met her. In a bar, exactly. Happened to be a bartender. That was perfect. I get free drinks. Ended up bouncing in there too and everything else. That was great. It worked out really well. Except she was even more dysfunctional than me. I found out shortly thereafter that she was selling drugs. And she was doing that to make all this extra money and stuff like that. And so she was treating me to Harley shirts and this and that, the whole thing. And I just rode a bike and all this crazy stuff. And I was living the dream, living the dream. Didn't get much sleep, but I was living the dream. But it was more and more dysfunctional as time went by, and things got more and more crazy as time went by. And there's legal issues, troubles, and everything just kept ballooning out of control. Looking back now, up in Wisconsin, it's not like down here in South Carolina. There's a bar in every corner. There's 5 bars in every corner. There really is. And 52nd Street, Kenosha is known as the most bars on one street in the world. Period. Okay? It's amazing how many bars are up there. I think they had 700 liquor licenses in Kenosha County alone. Okay? Yeah. When I give directions to my daughter's house, it's turn left by Ralph's, take a right over by Kelly's, go past Foxy's, take a left and park behind the biker bar. And all those bars are still there, and those are really the names now. I'm not joking. So I've played bar league softball, bar league darts, you name it, karaoke, trivia. There's always a reason to be in the bars, right? I had the whole list of who had what every night. That was pretty crazy. Now it sounds completely retarded. Back then, that was just normal. I mean, it's amazing how you can put yourself into that thing where your whole life is wrapped around alcohol and drugs. It's just crazy. So, anyway, shortly after that, I was introduced to the wonderful world of cocaine, and obviously things got much better. Actually, I had dark hair before I started doing that. It's funny how fast things went downhill from there. Whether I was snorting it, smoking it, whatever. I mean, it just went from there. Eventually. After another kid too, by the way, in the mix, the whole thing, my 3rd child. The dysfunction was pretty dynamic. 14 years with this woman, okay, and we never did get married. I lived in 3-4 different places over the years. I lived in probably 7 because I was in and out, but that was okay. It's normal. Okay? A couple little stints in the local Kenosha County Detention Center. Different legal issues and fights at the bars. I was bouncing full-time at a different bar and stuff. And working, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at the car lot. Whichever one I didn't get fired from this week that I started at the other one. They used to say you could parachute naked into Montana and have a brand new car and a $60,000 a year job in 20 minutes in the car business. Never really tried that, but whatever. That's what they used to say, though, and they always try to, blow things out of proportion. But yeah, you can get a brand new car in the demo program and, make decent money. It's just what we need to do as alcoholics and addicts, right? So, anyway, she ended up having some issues. I was trying to get things straight in my life, finally, because of legal issues. Imagine that. I had to go to AA because I had to get that little piece of paper signed by my PO. So it wasn't because I wanted to go. Okay? I ended up, the whole ball for recovery started for me initially when my boss in the car business says, come here, drug test now. Because I was falling asleep on top of the car while I'm standing up. Okay? That's what normal people do, though, right? Fall asleep on a car while they're standing up. Anyway, so I freaked because I'm thinking, well, I'm certainly not going to pass. I didn't study for this test. So I gave a quick phone call to the VA, and I found out that a couple days later I could go into the ATP program, Addiction Treatment Program, 35-day intensive inpatient. They take your cell phone and put it away, and you're stuck there then. Okay? Well, if I did that, I could keep my job. So I did that. Well, I was in there, they told me that they want me to see a counselor because they believe that I have some PTSD issues. I said, well, why do you think that? They said, how many different times have you been arrested? And how many fights have you been in? And I went, a few, few. 100. But it's quite a few. But so it wasn't too hard to figure out, and they had me take a test for it, and I think I scored like 98%. So at least I got an A in something. So that worked out pretty good. No, so they started the paperwork for me to get some type of disability for PTSD, and I didn't know what would ever go through or whatever would happen with it and all that stuff. But they started to tell me about some different programs. But I went through the addiction treatment program, and I heard everything they said. Okay. But my problem wasn't alcohol. My problem was drugs. So if I could just stay away from the drugs, I would be just fine. Alcohol's legal. So, yeah, I heard you. That's fine. But I know what I'm going to do. That's good. I got this. The PTSD program, we'll do that another time. And I ain't got time for that. I got to get back to work. Right? So you can imagine how that worked out moving forward. Worked out for a couple months until the next fall happened, because it didn't take me long. I didn't realize that, I can stay away from the drugs until I have a couple drinks. All of a sudden the gloves are off and everything's okay. And now it seems like a good idea. It didn't before I had a couple drinks. Then I have a couple drinks and everything else seems like a good idea. And that trend just continued with different binge drinking and drug things and stuff like that over the years. I eventually did go to the PTSD program, and believe it or not, I got kicked out for fighting. Try that. I did. In the 5th week, I got kicked out for fighting. And I never did even hit the guy, but it was just amazing. To get kicked out of the PTSD program. What kind of a group does that happen to? And that's just, aren't I there for this? What happened? During that time frame, they introduced me to something called Fishing for Freedom, which is a veterans group in Quincy, Illinois, that takes veterans out fishing. I was so broke, I actually took a train, no joke, from Fox Lake to Chicago to Quincy, Illinois, and the volunteer picked me up from the train station and brought me to the hotel, which they paid for. They gave me a bunch of free stuff, which they paid for, and they paid for everything. Took me in a boat for a couple of days. It was my first ever fishing trip for catfish, because I like catfishing. Not so much anymore, but I did that. But we won it. I'll be darned. It was pretty easy. The job was, don't touch that, don't touch it, no. Okay, grab it. And I reeled it in, and that's it, we're good. That was it. So it's not like I had to know a lot. This guy was an absolute pro when it came to that. I had a ball. It was amazing. I really had a good time with it. Funny thing is that stuck with me. And as I went forward, I started doing more veterans retreats. And I ended up going to that for 4 years in a row. But the second time, I was able to take my own car. Okay, improvement. Okay, and then it got better from there, a little bit here and there. During that time, my ex, or whatever, the one who was the bartender that I was with for 14 years, and the mother of my youngest, she had some health problems, and was in and out of the hospital a couple different times for week stints where they put her into a coma to try to get her liver to fire back up and to get her back out because she was killing herself with alcohol. So it wasn't looking real good, but she wasn't going to go to AA. I brought her to a meeting. She's not like those people. No, she's not like those people. That's not my people. I can't do that. Right? A couple weeks later, she decided to go out drinking again. Believe it or not, she actually passed out, blocked her airway, and went brain dead, and she was dead in a couple of days. No joke. Finally had to pull the plug on that. So my youngest son's mother has passed away. By this time, I've been in and out of the program, doing veterans groups, PTSD treatment, PTSD counselor, AA, NA, bouncing in and out of stuff. Started CR, Celebrate Recovery, at a church in Kenosha. Okay. And I was in and out of all these different groups. And it was working for a while, then it wouldn't, and I'd go out binge drinking. It was working for a while, and it wouldn't, and all that stuff. But what was I missing? What was I missing? Well, finally, I decided, something had to change. I decided that when I was in jail on the top bunk because I broke probation. Okay, and I literally just finally said, I give up. I give up. So I finally turned to God. Finally, after all this time, running away from him, all I had to do was stop and turn around, and hey, there he was. It's not like I had to chase him down for 26 years. He happened to be right there. So that's just how that worked. So I was in jail, and I was in there for 3 months, which was 69 days. I'm not really sure how that math works, but I'm glad it wasn't any more than that. I ended up reading 52 books, almost all of them Christian books. I read Mere Christianity, Born Again, all kinds of amazing books and stuff that just coming on that book cart. Because I was bored. Yes, I was bored. Read the Gospels, read a bunch of other stuff like that. Was in the Bible studies and the prayer groups, all the stuff I could do. And CR, well, actually it was AA. It was AA and NA and a bunch of other stuff. Anything I could get to get out of that little room for a while, And when I got out, it was time to make some changes. I had lost everything I owned again. My father and my son went to my apartment and took my whatever possessions they thought I should still have, put them in some boxes. At this time was before my ex passed away, so put them in her garage, and everything else went on the curb. So I had, if you have an SUV, I wouldn't fill it up with everything I owned. It'd probably be 3 boxes in there at that point. A few things came with me for some pictures and my Bible my grandma gave me, which is kind of interesting. Can't believe that made it through all this stuff. But anyway, so I had to make some changes at that point. So that started me having God in the backbone of recovery a little bit. I didn't just give everything to him right away and succeed and move forward. That would be a very shorter story. But unfortunately, I was a little bit more stubborn than that. I decided I wanted to know everything there was to know about all my answers to Christianity, the hypocrisy. What about dinosaurs, dude? Come on. What about the speed of light? I mean, give me a break. I'm not a dumb person. I mean, I know all these different facts that they taught me in school about the Big Bang, right? I mean, didn't we come from an amoeba? Yeah, whatever. So I wanted to know everything, but I didn't want to hear it from one person. Didn't want to hear it from a preacher, pastor, nobody. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know it now. Well, good luck with that. It doesn't really work that way. But for 2 years, well, I'm in and out of different veterans groups, in and out of different recovery groups, all this other stuff like that. I decided that my quest is going to be to read as many books, watch as many videos, study as much as I can. The end of that cycle, I went to a lecture by Lee Strobel, the author of The Case for Christ. He was giving a lecture in Lake Forest, Illinois, for his new book at the time, which was The Case for Miracles. I just happened to be the last person in line to get my book signed that I bought. Just happened to be. And he just happened to have nothing better to do than to talk to me for like 20 minutes, which was pretty amazing. You know, all these nice coincidences that happen. Okay? And we talked for a little bit, and he left me with 2 questions. He said, you know, I pretty much had the same questions that you did. You know, I was determined that this was not the way it was going to go. You heard my story, you read my book and stuff. And he said, well, how much proof is enough? That's the first question. How much evidence is enough? You're never going to know everything, so how much proof is enough? That's one. Second thing is, okay, if that's true, now what? And obviously he didn't want a response, he didn't want an answer, and I took that in and said goodbye, got my little autograph book, went home, all that stuff like that. But that kind of resonated with me, really did, you know? And funny thing is that's exactly what he said in his book pretty much too. But not that one, the one before that. And it's pretty funny because it really left a lasting effect, really did. Now, how much proof is enough? I studied all this stuff, found out all these neat facts, all these different things about all these different things. Well, I finally had to come to the conclusion, the same one that he did, that you know what, God is real. Jesus did exist. He did die on the cross. He did rise again. And everything absolutely is true. Okay, and guess what? You think I would have an idea being in all these recovery groups for 4 years and seeing all these miracles all over the place. Can I pay a little bit more attention, maybe? I mean, because just about everybody in these groups is a miracle story. Everybody turned their lives around. They can't do it on their own. Right? So finally, I decided to get that involved, and all of a sudden, things started to gain a little bit more traction, a little bit more ground. Okay? All of a sudden, things started going in the right direction, a lot better. Funny thing is, some of the veterans trips got a little better, too. Which was funny. I mean, I ended up getting invited to Canyon Heroes. I got to spend a week whitewater rafting in the Grand Canyon. Wow. A group of PTSD veterans. It's amazing. Did a bunch of other stuff. Okay. And these trips were just out of this world. I met some really great people. I still keep in contact with a lot of them. And they're on my accountability partners list, if you will. When things are going on and all that stuff. Got about 1.5 years clean. Finally got over the hump. I had to go 90 meetings in 90 days, and I thought, you know what? I can make 90. I can't make past 120, ever. Somebody said, well, do 90 and 90 again. That's so crazy, it just might work. Hey. So I did. I made 6 months. I said, you know what? I wonder what would happen if I did it again. Did it 2 more times, ended up making it a year. Wow. You know? Finally ended up getting to the point where I went to enough meetings to actually want to go to meetings. I didn't think there was a point that would actually happen. I thought it was a myth, but I did. And met some people, had some good friends. And believe it or not, these friends did not want money from me and did not want me to buy them drinks. That's kind of cool. Yeah. Worked out good. Some of these friends I did stuff with. One guy took me snowmobiling up north. And it's a funny conversation. I don't have a snowsuit. I got an extra one. I can't afford a sled. I got 2 of them. It was just, so now I do that with people with my boat. Recovered enough to be able to buy a boat, started doing the fishing stuff on my own, and really enjoyed it. I really did. That was the only thing I managed to keep out of that military money from getting that, finally getting a settlement from PTSD. You know, and then as things moved forward from there, God had some other plans for me. Somehow civilian disability came through a little while later, and I didn't have to work anymore, so I could really, really concentrate on recovery. And that really, I went all in on all that stuff. And kept going with it and going with it. And helping out veterans groups, doing other veterans things, doing the fishing stuff. I got 1.5 years clean, and then finally I bumped into on Facebook a girl I dated 30 years before that. Crazy, because I'd looked for her before, never found her. But I got 1.5 years clean, and I find her. talked to her, never hung up the phone, ended up married and moving down to South Carolina. And you would think that that would be my fairy tale story, and everything ends right there. A few months ago, I would have told you that's the fairy tale story. Everything's wonderful. Well, you know what? Life's different now. Now I'm going through my own little storm again. Had 4 or 5 years, well, 3 with her that were pretty good. You know, it really was. Had a couple health issues, a few other things, got a nicer boat. Plenty of things to bore you with on the details later, but we got to get to the point. She decided she wants a divorce. Period. Nothing I can do about it. So I was in denial since September, and I've been trying to get things to change, and you know, I have to use the principles of the program. I have to accept the things I cannot change, and I certainly cannot change another human being. I can't, no matter how much I want to. I can do all the right things, do the next right thing, and all that stuff like that. And it's funny, because you know, I was really wondering about giving my testimony with the stuff going on. You know, I was like, well, I'm gonna come off as a sourpuss, I'm gonna be angry, this, that, all these other things. No, that's not the case. You know, when is the best time to give your testimony? I don't know if there is a good time or a bad time, but I tell you what, I'm gonna get through this because of these groups. Because of the people that I know. I'm doubling, tripling up on meetings, I'm talking to a whole bunch of different people from these groups, doing more stuff with the church, and you know what? I'm finding out I got friends today. There's people that have been through similar things, there's people that are reaching out, helping me out, and it's just amazing. Okay, you know, yeah, things are gonna look different, I don't know what God's got in store moving forward, maybe we'll get back together, maybe we won't. I'm looking at a little house, and you know, we'll see how everything closes out. But you know what? I don't know what the next chapter is really gonna be like, but I know it's gonna be with me being clean and sober. I know it's gonna be with me with God. Okay? I got a good relationship with my kids. I got a good relationship with my family. During this last few years, I moved my mother, who was absolutely on her deathbed up in Wisconsin, to an assisted living facility down here. Well, now she's getting taken care of down here. She's turned around, she's doing really good. I take her to church and we go out to eat and all kinds of stuff now. I mean, it's a complete turnaround, right? And now my brother and sister think I'm a genius, well, with that. But no, I mean, I got the family support with some of that stuff. You know, you just said I was going to be trusted to take my mother across the country to bring her somewhere else. I'd be like, yeah, me? You know, okay, sure. Is there a drug house between here and there? But no, I certainly have got my own issues, my own problems, my own difficulties. What I'm finding is that the more I try to reach out and help somebody else, the more it helps me. You know, I'm blessed that I can sponsor a few people today, and I can share my experience, strength, and hope. It's a huge help to me. I certainly hope it's a help to them. I can tell you a couple different things. I can tell you that God is real and He works. Yeah. Period. You don't believe it? Hang around for a while. You can't see the recovery stories and the miracles that are happening in these rooms, you're not paying attention. Maybe just be quiet and listen just a little bit. Just think about it. Because how many people can tell you that they turned their lives around with God before you believe it? How much proof is enough? And you know what? If that's true, we're now working. That's where I leave you today. Thank you for coming out and listening.
Thanks, Mark.